would you judge people for having changed their job often? And would this make you hesitant to hire them? So, Maria, I think this one instantly sort of makes its way over to your court.
Yes. No, I mean, I wouldn't, personally, I wouldn't judge people for having changed jobs often. I would be interested to hear what their journey has been. And that's not because I'm looking for fault. That's just because I would be intrigued to find out, why have they done all these different things? I mean, so I think as a creative, the more life experience you have, the more you bring to the table every day creatively. So it can be a really beautiful thing. And we aren't really the type of personality, often we aren't the type of personality to sit in the same job for 20, 30 years because we're restless and we're always wanting fresh perspectives and new inspiration. So I would sort of, in my opinion, it's one industry where changing jobs doesn't reflect badly on you at all.
Yeah, and I think the only other thing I think you need to do with that is to be able to communicate why, have really good reasons for it. Like the only thing that is stopping someone making a sort of negative decision around that is thinking that, oh, you just can't sit still and 6 months later, all the time and investment I've put into you is gone. Whereas actually, if there's very good reasons and you're able to articulate them, then that's what I'd want to find out. I'd be with you. I think I'd be quite intrigued. I just want to know why. But yeah, I mean, I think I don't know about you. I look less and less at CVs and portfolios and stuff now. And, if something sparks my interest in what they said as they were coming in the door, then that's the thing that sort of will determine whether I'm going to speak to you for longer or not. Because we all look kind of similar on paper.
Yeah. And it's also a good opportunity to reflect back on the last question, which is that critic. If I was sat in an interview with you, Andy, and you said to me, so tell me why you've changed jobs so much, there are two different responses I could have to it. One, let's say from the loving, confident Katie, you might be like, oh, he's really interested in me. He really wants to know about my experience. The critic might go, you see, there you go. He's automatically made a judgment on you, and he's now just asked that question to trip you up so that you could fail, and he has a predetermined idea of what he wants, and you're not going to fill it, and So you can begin to see how our own narrative, the stories we tell ourselves, become our reality.
It's so true, isn't it? Like, I mean, I've had these conversations very recently around if you're basically, what you're second guessing of what other people are thinking about you. And how if you go looking for like negative thoughts or negative perceptions, you can find them. Like it's very, you just have to look and you'll find them. But also they might not be real, but you're sort of making them real for yourself. So are there any other sort of techniques? Like I'd love I'm going to go back and like write my positive and my negative side, my devil and my angel almost. Are there any other things around that are good to do?
Well, look, there's a lot. One of the things that I would say to people just to hold in your mind is that your body always wants to maintain the status quo, even if it does not serve you. Right. And so to give you an example of that, if I drank 8 coffees a day and I was in a constant state of high anxiety, like I don't think anybody on this webcast would think that that's a good idea. Yet, if I suddenly tried to stop drinking coffee, my body would it would do everything it could do to bring me back to that state that it recognizes, right? So I'd get cracking headaches, I'd crave coffee, all the rest of it, because it wants to maintain that state because its job is to keep me safe. And it just knows that in that state, I'm safe, that's been working. And in the same way, if you're somebody who always looks at something through a negative lens and you always feel, and you're far more, in relationship with the devil than the angel, then it's a really big ask of yourself. And so again, I'd kind of go back a little bit to what we were talking about in the beginning, where all emotions are welcome, which is maybe the greatest tool is just awareness. Just stop and ask yourself, who is reflecting that truth, or what aspect of yourself is reflecting that back at you? That's the place to start, because once you have sight of that, then you have self-awareness. And once you have self-awareness, then you have conscious choice. And then there are lots of tools and different things that you can bring in. But the first thing to do is just to stop and create some distance between yourself and your response to this external stimuli, and hold it with some objectivity so that you can get curious about it, get to know it, and then begin to think about what you will bring in to at least hold it in equilibrium. You're not going to be able to completely disavow it because it's part of who you are, but bring it into equilibrium so that it doesn't sabotage you every time you're in a meeting with somebody who you may perceive as, you know, more threatening or smarter or whatever the story is you've told yourself.
And I mean, as someone who's interviewed a lot of people over the last few years, I always want the best for the person sitting in front of me, right? Like that, you know, like I'm looking for the best in them. I want to get to know them. I'm not looking for fault, and I'm not looking for them to make mistakes. And so I guess remembering that when you go into those sort of situations is useful too, I think.